if the players do what Justin Thomas recommends in his letter, it would make a difference. Yes, no, and I didn't read the letter is the third option.
Yeah, Justin.
19.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. 19% say, yeah, it's going to make a difference. 31% say, no, it doesn't make a difference. And 50% say, I didn't read this letter. To what are you talking about?
All right, so half the audience doesn't know. He wrote a letter. Some of the kind of highlight clips. Leave one of it in preview there, Andrew, if you would. Some of the highlight clips include, he says, the more I think about it, the more I feel as giving more access and insight can make a world of difference, all caps world. Justin mentions particularly pre- and post-round interviews, wearing a mic, equipment and swing updates. He says, I know stepping outside of our comfort zones isn't always easy. Believe me, in the past, I've been the first to say no before things are even done being asked. Our fan-forward research shows that on-course personality is the highest-ranked driver of interest for young fans 18 to 34 years old. And just to note, that 18 to 34 age group is the fastest and largest growing demographic of golf, full stop. Right? Full stop. I'm not talking about TV. I'm talking about that group because of the size of it and the way that they're catching on. So that folks, and you can go to our Fairways of Life YouTube page and weigh in on what Dom's talking about. So the 50 whatever % of you that didn't know about the letter, JT saying, hey, it's time for us to step up here and do more. You know, and I've told you guys this before. During the height of the Phil and Tiger era, those who chronicled the game, it was great. Great for competition, but in terms of getting something from the leading players, it was nothing but platitudes. You could not get at them. The way that it worked was that you delivered the image, the package, the message, or you didn't get access at all. Right? So we went through almost 2 decades of that. Then you got all these young players who look to those guys. And until JT sends out this manifesto, before that, you had some that were good at it. You could get at them. You could talk to them. And it worked. It made them very popular. Think our buddy Joel Damon as an example, right? Everyone says, oh, he's got great personality. Well, he's willing to put himself out there. The top players, they went down that same mode. And yes, it's probably the players' inclination to some extent. It's very much driven by agents as well. Agent sits back and goes, no to everything. Just full stop. There's one agent who's probably the biggest agent in the entire industry, and we call him Dr. No. No to everything. Full stop, just no. Then decisions are made based upon whether it equates to profits. Next tier of decisions are based upon how it equates to how big the exposure is. Third one, which is probably even before the second one, is how well is the player's image protected so that the commercial viability of who that person is continues. And what they're finding is that the fans now need more. When you have players that are willing to put themselves out there in every way, shape, and form like a Bryson, are no longer playing on your tour, and you guys come across as boring, you get a yawn from the audience. Right? So now you've got one of the top players going, we can't do that anymore. We can't expect that the gravy train is going to continue just because we're tour players. And frankly, I talked about Bryson. I've talked about this a lot in the past. One of the reasons I've always liked Bryson is that we've seen him change right before our eyes. I think when Bryson first came out, he just thought, you know what? Everybody loves the long ball. I'm on the PGA Tour now. I'm sitting at the popular table. And all I got to do is just do what I do and not worry about anything else. You know, chasing more speed and all the rest. And, the professor and all that stuff, and it all kind of backfired on him. It became, with the whole interaction with Brooks, calling Brooksy and all that stuff, it to me, it became just schoolyard bullying. But then Bryson started to figure it out. And I'm not telling you that Bryson changed. I think Bryson figured out how to let the world see who he really is. And now we all love him, right? Willing, out there, helpful. He's our reigning U.S. Open champion. Carry the trophy into the grandstands and into the crowd. It was tremendous. And it made a massive, massive difference by every measure, really. Meanwhile, you had the model on the other side, which was about don't talk about, protect. The only thing we show is what we have to. And that still is the model for many professionals. But to get somebody at JT's level, and JT, he told you, he used to be against it himself. Right? Now, all of a sudden, it's starting to become an issue because people are making other choices. You guys, when I interview a young player, I always try to remember to ask the question, you are now the CEO of your name, your brand. What do you want it to represent to the world? And when it starts to come across that the only thing that you're representing is how much you can line your pockets, because other than that, you're not going to give anything. You know what? The people are starting to speak. They're speaking with the remotes. Anyways, Tom, circling back around to the JT thing. I mean, you've spent the better part of creeping up on 2 decades trying to book players. You know the dance even better than I do in terms of what you're told in the walls that are built up in terms of trying to get players out. We call it outside their comfort circle. I think that's just an excuse. It's got nothing to what's the discomfort? I think it's got more to do with the parameters that I mentioned to you guys earlier. It's got to do with, can we profit from this endeavor? Do we get paid to do whatever you're going to ask us to do? You mean connect with your fans? Oh, it's not a corporate event. Oh, you're not being paid to speak at this one. Or it's not you talking about a new relationship. It's just you being you and giving something back.
Yeah, I'm not a great person to talk to about this because my perspective is very negative. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to say something I shouldn't say, but the reality
What are
is
you afraid of?
A lot of things. I mean, there is politics at play with all the things that we're discussing, but this is year 17 or 18 I've been producing this show, Matt, I think. 17, 18, something like that. A long time, like you said, almost 2 decades. And the better players, call it the top 15, give or take. And there's some movement in there over 10 years, but not a lot. Those players, as you mentioned, are very difficult to get at. And I would argue that a majority of them, over a majority of the time that I've been producing, are only available through agents. So, because we know all these guys at this point, right? So if I text the guy, right, I could text someone who's in the top 10. I can say, hey, you want to come on the show? I will literally get a response back from them that says, contact my agent. That's what they'll say. Contact my agent at this address.
I got that yesterday.
Of course, I know. Yeah. So guess what happens when you contact their agent? Dr. No. That's what happens when you contact their agent. So specifically, again, not to get in the weeds and to get in trouble.
Get in the
here,
weeds, Dom. You can't get in trouble.
I'm very upset about how the Justin Thomas thing has come up and then been taken in by the media and the way people are talking about it. The hypocritical nature of the entirety of the memo is absurd. I have probably asked to have Justin on this program every 6 months for 12 years, roughly, right? So I've emailed the agent, said I call the agent, hey, let's get him on this show. Hey, we're on Golf Channel. Hey, let's do this. Let's do that. No. And now he sends a note saying, yeah, you know what? We should really do some interviews.
Yeah, but in fairness to him, he said he's come of a different state of mind.
No, he hasn't. Let me read something to you. This is from his own memo. All right? This is not in the graphic, but Andrew, you can put the graphic up if you want so people can read the other stuff he said. It was a very long memo. Quote from the memo: I'm not asking anybody to be somebody they aren't or change anything in their routine that would affect their performance. Instead, just be open to possibilities and changes. I've had the idea of pre-round interviews similar to football games with head coaches. They pan down to the coach, and he is asked one question, one that he already knows is coming before he's even asked. He gives a 5 to 10 second answer, and I'm always so tuned in to how they explain their game plan and lay out their approach. Imagine that happens on the first tee before the final few groups. You can come back to me, Andrew. Yes, imagine that happened. That is garbage. That is the opposite of what he's talking about, Matt. He's saying we need to open up to the media. We need to open up to the fans. And his plan for that is a 5-second canned answer to a question he already knows is coming. That's the most inauthentic thing on planet Earth. By the way, those coach interviews are trash. They are completely useless. You get nothing out of those. And that happens in the NBA, too. They do the same thing in the NBA games. They talk to a coach in between quarters. What a joke. What a total waste.
You know when they
hey,
do
you're
a good
losing by
job with
30.
it, though?
What's your plan?
For your ranting?
Ridiculous.
They do a good job with it with baseball.
No, they
in the middle of the game, they go down and they'll talk to the manager, and they'll be like, how come you took Scarano out of the game? Be like, I don't know, he's been coughing and hacking, he caught something. His energy level's bad.
I disagree wholeheartedly. But
you don't even watch baseball. How do you know?
The disingenuous nature of the memo is what I'm irritated about. He says, let's open up. I've been asking him to open up for 15 years. The answer is no. I've been asking the best players for 15 years. The answer is no. It's always no. And then at the end, he says, here's the plan. Here's what we should do. A 5-second interview before the tournament starts that's pre-canned, pre-answered. You already know the question, and you're talking to the same people you've always been talking to.
Yeah, but what's interesting about it, Dom, is that...
Come on. It's ridiculous.
Whenever I'm around two of the guys that would be asked a lot, you're referring to, you're talking about...
We're definitely going to get a lot of no's now.
You're talking about Justin Thomas. I spent a lot of time around Ricky Fowler. So those are two guys going to be asked to be on stuff all the time, right? What percentage of the time? Here we go, Dom. Put them up in the two shot so we can speak to this. Don't be trying to dodge things, Dominic. I don't know who Dom thinks he's going to get in trouble with. Literally, I'm not going to fire you because you give your opinion.
Yeah, but I think that, like, so for example,
I'm going to fire you for interrupting.
Me being upset
yeah.
with how this is unfolding with Justin Thomas, I don't think we'll ever get Justin Thomas.
Well, you haven't yet, so, and I've got that in your file that you're very bad at it. But here's my question for you. Here's my question in fairness. What percentage, you give me a percentage, what percentage of your time do you think Ricky Fowler or Justin Thomas have ever been asked if they want to be on the show?
Fair question. I would say that number's probably around 50%.
Bull. I would put 100% hard no. There's no way and this is where it comes up. Now,
no, that's not true because I talk to the players themselves a lot, and they say talk to the agents. So the players know that there are requests coming in.
Okay.
And they deem, to your point, they deem that the value inherently on going on a show like this, just any show.
I don't think that judgment's being made by them. They should be, but I don't think it was. I think what's happening is that's why I said the agents are primary in this. There's a decision that's being made by agents that are going, first rule of thumb is no to everything. Then we start to look at it through our criteria. Then we decide if you're going to do it. That's the control.
Yeah, I think that is a huge percentage of
when I've been around Ricky, when I've been around Justin, they're good guys. I like their company. I like to see them. And here's the difference for those of you that's sitting out there and hearing people rail. Right now, this show, by whatever means that you catch it, wherever you watch it and how, this is the largest golf talk and news show in the world. Let that settle for a second. People hear that and they're like, oh, you would think it would be with frequency on Golf Channel. It's because the show is syndicated. Our syndicated network, which are made up of these television affiliate networks around the world, is much, much larger than what we do on Golf Channel. It's like 3 times larger than what we do on Golf Channel. So the distribution of the show, because then you add in that network distribution on top of what we're doing, nothing comes close for a television talk and news show of golf. Nothing. And again, you guys know us. We're not saying that to brag about it. We're saying it from the perspective of frame that around this conversation where you've got huge players up to this point through their structure going, no, we can't do that. No, we can't. We can't allow ourselves to be exposed.
Well,
we can't allow ourselves
Matt,
to be asked questions.
What Justin
that we don't
is
know
talking
what's
about is correct. That's what's frustrating about all this to me from the side of like the hypocrisy is he's correct. If the players were authentic and opened up, it would help their brand. It would help the tour. It would help all of it. But in order to do that, you need to let your guard down. You know, I don't care if you come on this show. I'm just saying you go on a show for 30 minutes or an hour. Look at something like Rogan's podcast or these other podcasts, whatever you want to call them, where these people are doing interviews for 3 and 4 hours. You cannot hide in that amount of time. If you talk to someone for that amount of time, who you are, your nature comes out. And then
I'm telling you, their nature is good.
The public authentically.
Their nature is
yes,
good.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
why I'm saying they got to do it.
Whole,
you got to do it. It's going to help.
There's too many people around the players today. There's too much
10-second
insulation.
There's
too much profit motive. There's too many people that make money off the people that they're advising. Because the players themselves, their personalities are good.
Agree. I have had very few experiences in doing this for 15 to 20 years when I've traveled on any of the tours where I've had an instance with a player that was negative. Almost never happens.
I can't think of one.
It's universally good.
Yeah.
So they need to do these, like I would love if we did a 1-hour interview with Patrick Cantlay. There's a lot of negative things around Patrick. We spend an hour with him, guarantee the audience comes away going, man, I like that guy. That's a good dude. Guaranteed. But you have to do that.
Do you think...
You can't do a canned 10-second interview.
Do you think that's...
Also, I'd like to talk to him about the things that people want to talk to him about, like all these players. In that type of forum, Matt, then you say to Patrick Cantlay, everyone has a problem with how slow you are. Do you think you're slow? Are you slow? If you're not slow, why are you not? Tell us about your process. Let us in. Talk to us, not for 1 minute, for 45 minutes. I'm telling you, it's going to help if they do it. Justin is correct, but the way he wants to do it is incorrect.
Well, I don't have quite that same impression because I kind of look at it as a crack in the ice. And let's take this first step. If this is step one, it's okay. Maybe all of a sudden you find out that not everybody is out to get you. Not everybody is out to make a name for themselves by getting you to trip up. But the question I was going to ask you, and I'm almost tempted to see if you could put it out in your can you do more than one question in a day? Or I don't know what format you use because I never.
I can end the question right now. 39% say what he wants to do will do nothing, and 43% didn't read the letter.
Well, that's down. That 43% was 50-something% last time we did it.
Well, we're talking about it, but I'll end the poll right now.
Here's my question. You brought up Patrick Cantlay.
What's the question?
Is Patrick Cantlay the most unpopular player on the PGA Tour? Is that unpolitically correct to ask that question?
No, but it's a dangerous path to go down. I would say that he is...
Why is it dangerous? Who are you afraid of, Dom?
Well, it's not that I'm afraid. It's just that I don't want... Again, it goes back to the authenticity and the
well, how much would you phrase it?
Transparency I'm talking about.
Is Patrick...
No. It's too late. Is Cantlay the most unpopular player?
That doesn't mean that he merits being the most unpopular player. I'm trying to get a baseline here. If it's not him, who would it be? Name names, right? And why?
I just hit go, and the first person that voted yes. So for just a second there, it was 100% say very unpopular is the worst.
Right, because my theory is, to your point, if he is perceived to be the most unpopular, maybe that's the word you could have blunted it with, but say, is Patrick Cantlay perceived as being the most unpopular player in the PGA Tour? Because I believe it I don't know if that has any merit at all. Because how well do we really know Patrick Cantlay? Ask yourself that question. How well do you really know him? Do you know
That's
him
the problem,
well enough
Matt.
to what?
We don't know any of the players well. Name one that we know really
Rory.
well. Maybe.
Rory puts himself out there more than anybody.
Maybe.
He would
He
have
does
looked
put
at a
himself
memo
out there a
like
lot.
that and said, "Yeah, thank you." Yesterday, been doing it nonstop.
I'm looking for players people hate. Stand by. Let's see. Looking at a list.
Can you imagine the question that you just put out? If it was a couple years ago, we would have had Bryson's name in there. As ridiculous as that seems now, right? Did you put in a write-in candidate on your question?
I did, but people have to write in. I can't just say people's names. A lot of people are saying Scotty is boring. They're writing in, but that doesn't mean you hate somebody. It just means they're boring.
But that is his
But
personality. But Scotty puts himself out there. We did a long-form interview with him a couple years ago. He's great. He was in Switzerland. He was looking like a caveman. It was the middle of winter. Remember, he had the big beard. Looked like he.
I don't know. I don't think a lot of these guys. I'm looking through a list of people. I don't think a lot of them are hated. They're really disliked. Like their perception. Most of these guys, their perception isn't that bad. I mean, I think Brian Harmon's quite deliberate. Some people might have issues with that when he's playing. Sometimes you hear some complaints there. Yeah, but all in all, I don't see. I mean, who's the villain? Patrick Reed? Maybe?
Yeah.
He's pretty disliked.
I'm not sure if the
Right?
live thing didn't help him just because he doesn't have the same amount of exposure.
Terrell Hatton? Is he disliked
Terrell
because of his
Hatton's loved.
anger issues?
Terrell Hatton
No?
is the authenticity you're talking about. And frankly, I think that Patrick Reed has a lot of that too. Patrick Reed understands that he's wearing the black hat. He gets it.
Yeah,
And now they got the deal. I mean, you guys probably heard.
Dislike.
Live is going to be on Fox, which is going to change that level of exposure that I was just talking
Oh yeah,
about.
Andrew, you got a graphic for that, I think, don't you? With the details of the deal, which is in fact a done deal, Matt. There you go.
Fox Sports Live Golf announced a multi-year, I'm reading this for those of you on the radio side, media rights agreement, live coverage of all 3 days of Live events. More than half of the league's schedule airing on Fox or FS1. Select rounds will air on FS2, Fox Business Network, and the Fox Sports app. All Live Golf coverage will also be streamed on the Fox Sports app and to Live Golf Plus app subscribers. Begins this February at the start of the Live Golf's third official league season. And I think half of their events are USA-based, aren't they? In this time zone? Across this time zone?
I don't know if it's half, but yeah, they've got a fair amount that are US-based events, correct.
And then I'm wondering if they're gonna air the other events tape delayed, or if they'll just air them live and that they aired when they aired, which I don't know. I kind of like, to be fair. All right, what are you getting back from people? I'm curious how this is going. You got me going down this road.
Let's look. Hold on. Stand by. Let's see. Scotty's boring. Scotty is more boring than Cantlay. It's interesting how they're reading the thing as someone who's unpopular as someone who's boring, apparently.
Which I wouldn't agree with. I think Adam Scott is massively popular. And frankly, I think Adam Scott's doing everything that he can do to put his personality out there. It's just his personality.
Patrick Reed is a good listen, and he is far from boring. Love me some Patrick.
There you go.
I think in the U.S., Zach Johnson is pretty hated. I don't think that's true. Anybody that's upset with him is probably upset because they lost the Ryder Cup, right?
Yeah, I can't imagine.
That's more of like a team thing. It's like, oh, my team
Right.
lost
That's what I was going to
football,
say.
I'm
I can't
angry.
imagine that
Yeah.
prior to the last Ryder Cup that anybody had like an ardently negative opinion of Zach Johnson.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see here. I am bored with the golf interviews. It's the same BS over and over. Yeah, the interviews I was there. He's referring to the interviews I was talking about earlier, the little pre-round stuff that you don't get anything out of.
Yeah.
I think Rory is just a narcissist. That's why he loves to talk. It's one way to look at it. Tiger is also a narcissist. Someone responds. I do enjoy that the things go off the rails in these chats sometimes, and they're like having discussions unrelated to what we're talking about. On the show.
Yeah, but we have discussions unrelated to what we're talking about.
True. Pre-round interviews, that's ridiculous. Is he serious? Referring to Justin Thomas's
Again,
suggestion.
I don't think it has to be that we have to
Nobody watches full golf tournaments anymore. They're too long. That's an interesting comment. And that wasn't directed at Live or the Tour. That was just in general. Golf is too long. I would actually tend to agree with that.
But what,
Full stop.
well, then why
But I
wouldn't
don't
the
think you
last
can
half
fix
hour
that.
have huge ratings?
Why would what?
Why wouldn't the last half hour have huge ratings then?
They do.
No,
The
they
last.
don't. If they
yeah,
had
the
that,
last,
they'd be touting that like crazy.
They do. Do you read the press releases, Matt?
Not all of them.
when if it's a close tournament, whatever the tournament is, whatever the tour, the last 30 or 40 or hour typically have a spike in ratings. And they'll say that. They'll say, "Oh, the last hour it peaked at X number of people."
Yeah, but
watching.
generally the number they give you is the peak number. That's what TGL was doing. Oh, it peaked at 1.2 million or whatever, or 3 million, whatever.
Yeah,
the
and that
number
was
is.
probably at the very beginning before it got lopsided. Yeah, that's correct.
They need a close competition. I don't think they're going to get it tonight.
Yeah, it's not great. I don't know. I don't know. I think this guy writes, I think Rory, for the most part, is pretty truthful. Then Cam writes, I really like TGL, but I like FOL more.
Yeah, we're going long too.
Well, I'll tell you
We're
one thing,
slow playing
folks.
'em.
If we were doing a golf tournament, it wouldn't take 3 hours.
Although
That's for sure.
We've already gone outside of our window on this Monday. All right. Well, there's lots of stuff to talk about. We'll continue the conversation tomorrow, our national show. Wednesday, we got plenty of time to kind of talk about these things. I mean, for what it's worth, I'm proud of the fact that, if we could start to talk about stuff, not like it's something we just started doing, but if we start conversations that make you or other people uncomfortable, then maybe we're going down the right road.
Well, it makes me uncomfortable because I don't think it's going to change. That's why it makes me uncomfortable. So, I think this is how I think about it like a producer, right? We're not getting Justin Thomas on because I just keep getting told no. So if I come on here and complain about the hypocrisy of it all, now my odds are 0%. And so that's why it's uncomfortable. It's like, I'd like to get him on the show. I think an hour with him is good for everybody, including him. But now, that's why it's uncomfortable.
Well, since you've been trashing them.
See? You see? I can trash others. I got lots to say.
Good. That's what we want. That's what I'm talking about.